Welcome to the Casuals Guide to UFC 299 O'Malley vs. Vera 2, where I show you filthy casuals why this card is going to be a banger. This card is absolutely stacked, so go ahead and hit that like button and let's get right into it. In the main event of UFC 299, Suga Sean O'Malley defends the Bantamweight title against familiar foe in Marlon Chito Vera. These guys have history, and you casuals should know O'Malley. The Suga Show came to the UFC in 2017, but was put on hold after his win over Andre Sukumtath, where he would badly hurt his foot. While he was recovering, he would receive a suspension from USADA for testing positive for a banned substance. This kept him out for about 2 years, but it's been a pretty good run for him since then. He would make his return against Jose Alberto Quinones, where he would finish the fight in the first round. Next, he would get a highlight knockout against Eddie Wineland, and he would be handed his first loss as a pro in his next fight when he would be knocked out by the man he faces this weekend, Marlon Chito Vera. We'll get into more detail about this fight in a little bit, but he would bounce back with 3 huge knockouts in a row when he would dispatch Thomas Almeida, Chris Moutinho, and Raulian Paiva. Next, he would poke Pedro Munhoz in his eye, and the fight would be called the no contest, and he would make a huge jump in competition when he faced Petr Yan. It would be a very close contested fight. Both fighters had some great moments, but it would be Sean that would take the split decision. He would earn a shot at Aljamain Sterling and the Bantamweight title. He would capture gold when he landed a huge counter right hand that floored Aljo. Some ground and pound later, and he was the new Bantamweight champion of the world. Now he gets to defend his title for the first time and get his loss back against Chito. Marlon Vera has been on a rise of his own. After beating Sean the first time, he would lose his next fight to Jose Aldo by decision, but he would bounce back, winning 4 in a row with wins over Davey Grant, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, and a huge knockout win over Dominic Cruz. He would then hit a bump in the road, dropping a decision to Corey Sandhagen in a fight where he looked completely outmatched. In his latest fight, he would win a unanimous decision against Pedro Munhoz. This wasn't really enough for a title shot, but with O'Malley getting the title, the best narrative to run is the rematch. And their first fight only lasted a round, but it showed how their styles clashed. Sean's stick and move was working for the most part at keeping Chito at distance, but Vera's relentless chase helped push Sean back to the fence and limit his movement. Both guys are very tricky, but Marlon's kryptonite has always been his output. Sometimes he just can't get going, or he can't put out enough to keep up with the opponent's output, which has caused him to fall behind in fights. And when he can't get a spectacular knockout, he usually drops those decisions. And both guys make incredible reads in there. Both guys have great striking. Both guys utilize their kicking game. I think Sean is a little more active with his kicks, but it's going to be a great fight. The story is there. I just hope the fight lives up to the hype. Don't miss out. In the co-main event, Dustin The Diamond Poirier takes on the surging Benoit, God of War Saint-Denis. Dustin has been a staple of the lightweight division ever since moving up from featherweight. He has been exclusively fighting top-ranked talent. His last fight was against Justin Gaethje for the BMF title. It would not go his way when he would get knocked out by a head kick in the second round. Before that, he would submit Michael Chandler in the third round. He is a great boxer with heavy hands. He's going to be fighting someone outside the top 10 when he faces the number 12 ranked Benoit Saint-Denis. The God of War has been on fire. He made his debut on short notice at welterweight when he took on Zaleski dos Santos. To say that he got beat was an understatement. He got battered, but he showed his toughness and his never quit attitude. He never stopped fighting back, and honestly, it was kind of admirable. But he would go back to his natural weight class and he would win 5 in a row, all 5 by finish. He would start his streak with a rear naked choke win over Nicholas Stolze, and he would follow that up with a second round TKO of Gabriel Miranda, and he would derail the hype train of Ismael Bonfim when he would submit him via rear naked choke in the first round. He would get another big win with a TKO win over Thiago Moises. And in his latest fight, he would knock out Matt Favola in impressive fashion. His string of finishes has really helped them put him on the radar, and now he is rewarded with a huge jump in competition when he faces the number 3 ranked Dustin Poirier. Saint-Denis kind of reminds me of Charles Oliveira in the way that he approaches his striking. His striking is definitely less refined than Charles, but they're similar in the way that he can be reckless because he is durable and because he is such a huge threat when it comes to the grappling that he doesn't have to worry about the takedown. This fight is going to be such a fun one. A classic veteran versus young prospect, young lion ready to take it all, and old vet ready to defend his spot. Don't miss out. Ranked welterweights clash when the number 4 ranked Gilbert Durinho Burns defends his spot in the rankings against the number 11 ranked Jack Della Maddalena. Gilbert is a former title challenger who has been able to remain within the top 5. He is 7-3 after making the jump up to welterweight from lightweight, and he is a big puncher with some great submissions. He is coming off a decision loss to Belal Muhammad, where he would hurt his shoulder early into the fight and he never really got into it. But before that, he had back-to-back wins over Jorge Masvidal and Neil Magny. Before that, he had an amazing fight with a surging Khamzat Chimaev. It was a great fight, but he would lose by decision. And now he is matched up with another prospect when he faces Jack. Jack Della Maddalena has been on a nasty run. He won his contract on the Contender Series against Ange Lusa, but since then, he has won 6 in a row. He made his UFC debut against Pete Rodriguez, where he would win by knockout. He would follow that up with a TKO win over Ramazan Emeev, where he would land some nasty body shots that floored Emeev. Next, he would knock out Danny Roberts in the very first round, and he would land a huge shot that dropped Randy Brown, but he would lock in a rear naked choke to end the fight. And he would get into a war with short notice replacement Basil Hafez. A lot of people try to discredit Jack after this win since he barely won by split decision, but it was just a tough stylistic matchup, and it was technically also on short notice for Jack. A few glaring things have constantly been shown for Jack. He is very hittable. He barely moves his head, and his guard is not as active as it probably should be. In his latest fight, he would win another close split decision against Kevin Holland. This could possibly become a great fight. If both these guys stay standing, it's going to be a firefight. There's no doubt about it. Both guys have strong striking. Jack's jab is money, and Gilbert has been susceptible to some strong jabs in the past. But something is really telling me that we might see a grappling approach from Gilbert Burns. Either way, it's going to be a fun fight between ranked welterweights. Don't miss out. We get a bantamweight banger when Petr No Mercy Yan takes on the Kung-Fu Kid Song Yadong. Petr Yan is the number 4 ranked fighter, but he has been on a bad skid as of late. His woes truly began when he fought Aljamain Sterling. He would dominate Aljo in the first fight, but an ill-advised knee to a grounded opponent would get him disqualified. After winning a great decision win over Corey Sandhagen, he would get the rematch with Aljo, but he would lose once again, but this time by split decision. Next, he would face off against Sean O'Malley, and he would lose by split decision once again. In his latest fight, he would drop another decision, but this time to Murad Valashvili, where he would get out-grappled and outworked. He has some great boxing and has shown to be very dangerous with his hands. He's going to have to stop the surging Song Yadong. The 26-year-old Song has really grown since getting into the UFC, and it seems he's really starting to reach his peak. During his rise, he got some good wins over Alejandro Perez, Casey Kenny, Julio Arce, Marlon Moraes, and Ricky Simone. And one of his biggest wins was against Marlon Vera. This win has aged like fine wine, considering Chito is fighting on this very card for the title. In his last fight, he had a great performance against Chris Gutierrez, where he showed off his versatility, mixing up the striking and the grappling. He is a very well-rounded fighter looking to show that he's ready for a shot at gold. Will the Kung Fu Kid be able to break into the top 5 with the win here? Or will Petr Yan bounce back and show the young prospect that there is no mercy at the top? Don't miss out. The number 13 ranked Kevin Trailblazer Holland welcomes Michael Venom Page to the UFC. Kevin Holland is one of the most active and consistently entertaining fighters in the UFC. Since moving down to welterweight, he is 4-2, and he made his welterweight debut against Alex Oliveira, where he would deliver a second round knockout to finish the fight. He would follow that up with a submission win over Tim Means via Darce choke. In a crazy lead up to UFC 279, Kevin Holland's opponent would go from Daniel Rodriguez at welterweight to Khamzat Chimaev at a catchweight. He would not be able to stop the wrestling from Chimaev and would be submitted via Darce choke. His next fight would also not go his way when he would lose to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He would bounce back with back-to-back finishes. He would knock out Santiago Ponzinibbio and he would submit Michael Chiesa. In his latest fight, he would lose a close split decision to Jack Della Maddalena, and he is a long, rangy striker with some very slick submissions. He's going to welcome MVP into the UFC. MVP is a highlight reel machine. You casuals probably seen some of his highlights on social media. Some argue it's because he faces cans, but we never really knew what level he was really at. I feel like we really missed out on seeing how he would hang in his prime, but I'm personally excited to see what he can still do. He is a very tall, rangy striker. He uses his karate to fight at a distance. His kicks are a huge part of his striking game, and he is one of the few that can match Kevin in reach and height. It's going to be a very fun striking battle. Kung Fu versus Karate, company man versus outsider. It's going to be a fun one. Don't miss out. Alright guys, that was my rundown of UFC 299. I hope you casuals learned a thing or two. A few other fights to look out for are Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida, two very different types of grapplers. It's kind of like old school versus new school, old bull versus young buck. It's going to be such a fun fight. Another fun battle between two different grapplers is when Mateusz Gamrot takes on Rafael Dos Anjos. Another old school versus new school type of fight, and another great one. And another great fight, another banger. Michel Pereira takes on Mikhail Lajacek. Man, that one's going to be fireworks. Both guys are very exciting fighters. Both guys are just so powerful. It's going to be a very fun one. And lastly, Felipe Lins takes on Ian Cutelaba. Big light heavyweights look to make a big statement. Both are very strong and very powerful. This card is genuinely stacked with some awesome fights. You might not recognize the names, but the matchups are actually kind of insane. And some people are even saying this card is more stacked than UFC 300. Let me know what you think. Do you think that's true? Anyway, it's going to be a great night of fights. Don't forget to tune in. I'll see you next week for UFC Fight Night Tuivasa versus Tybura. But until then, protect your neck and take care.
They talking crazy about you. They said
brother,
they smash
who
you.
cares? Who cares, brother? Who cares, brother? Who cares? Today, smash.